Witchcraft Part Two. Last time I discussed what witchcraft is throughout history, the historical views from various different authors, and what it means to you as the individual practitioner, either as a beginner, a faith change, or whatever. So now, I'd like to discuss what witchcraft is and go into it a little bit. The first thing is that it is a science. Now, the reason it's called a science is because of the experimental features that go along with it. Doesn't matter if it's, say, candle making, herbalism, rituals, and ceremonies. Say, for an example, calling upon the dead, like in necromancy. These type of things make it a science because you have to experiment to find out what works and what doesn't. This is why most practitioners keep a journal of some kind, like a notebook, if you wish, of your workings. And that is very important because you also want to separate your ritual books from your journals, because a journal is different from a book of shadows. Now, a book of shadows is where you record everything, your workings, your rituals, everything like that. Whereas a journal is more of, how should I put this? It's more of a place where you put your thoughts, your dreams, if you wish, to interpret it for later experimentation or observation. The second thing is that it is an art form, because you have all kinds of things that can be implemented within it. For an example, drums, guitar, dancing, shamans dance. They're always hopping in and out of their circles. Whereas a solitary practitioner would most likely sit there and chant. The art of chanting is a long history. Dates back to the oral traditions, where everything was spoken, sang. The Vikings, or Celtic Druids, they sang. They told stories. It was a way for them to hold dear to that of old. And the final thing is it is a religion among itself. Now, personally, I don't view it as a religion. It is more of a day-to-day tool. However, in today's world, it has been classified as a religion. So, when we go back throughout time, starting from the 1970s to modern day, we can view practitioners' views of this religious organization of Wicca, Wiccan, and witchcraft, or even add in paganism. We can go to Anne Mora, the Green Witchcraft book. We can go to Hans Holzer, who wrote the book Witches, which is basically an overall occultist, well, let's say honeypot, if you wish, of information, because it occupies so many different levels, from Gardner to Buckland to Satanism, especially in chapter 15, where it talks about witches, warlocks, wizards, and so forth and so forth. And then chapter 16, it goes into devil worship. But most of it is on, how should I put this? It's mostly about witchcraft and the rituals and ceremonies and stuff like that. However, I do have to give Raymond Buckland his props, because he did do a complete historical overview within his book Witches. which read it, was it called Witchcraft from the Inside. This book was very interesting because it lined up with a number of different other older books, like Reginald Scott's Discovery of Witchcraft with an IE at the end. Nicholas Remy's Demonolatry, an account of historical, account of historical practices of witchcraft. Lines right up with it. However, then we can go into books like Christopher Penziak, his Temple series, the Temple of Outer Witchcraft, the Temple of Inner Witchcraft, the Temple of Shamanitic Witchcraft, the Temple of High Witchcraft, the Temple of Living Witchcraft, Volume 1, which is about the goddess, and then you have the Temple of Living Witchcraft, Volume 2, which is about the god. Now, for any and all newbies into witchcraft, I always recommend to my students to get these books, because of the fact that if you're really true to this path, you're not going to be looking for rituals. You're not going to be looking for spells. You're going to learn the basics. You're going to want to learn to get that firm foundation. And witchcraft is basically the 3-in-1. And I do agree with Christopher Penziak. His view is on this matter in the Outer Temple of Witchcraft is in Chapter 1, which is very, very correct, in my opinion, is that most today are looking at it as a fad. It is more of, how should I put this to you? Witchcraft has become just another fad. It is the escape from the dogmatic religions like Christianity or whatever paganism or form that you're used to. You're just trying to escape. However, there are those who are serious about this and this path, and I do congratulate all of you who are true and not only speak but also walk this path. It's not much like Satanism, it is not for the faint of heart. It is not a sometimes thing, it is not a part-time thing, but it is a day-to-day practice. And witchcraft, along with satanic sorcery, is a very living thing. It is about nature, it is about balance, and it is about discipline. Now, Christopher Penziak is the one I'm going to focus on from this point on, or at least until the end of this volume, this part 2. The one thing that I agree with him, along with Paul Huzon with Mastering Witchcraft, is that the basics are there for a reason. Each tool, each move, every method has a point. It has a purpose. And when you experiment and you get that focus and you allow yourself to open up to the deities, to no matter if it's, what most call the white light fads today, or the dark lighters, like demonic sorcerers, warlocks, wizards, whatever. You can get in touch with just about any type of spirit, any type of being, as long as you open up to them and allow them to get in touch with you. Now, because time and space has no meaning to them, it comes down to their time and not ours. A lot of the time, these beings are elemental, whereas some are spiritual manifestations. Every tool has a purpose, like the athame for calling corners. You have the wand, which is directing energy, much like an athame. The burn pot, which is for the sacrificing. The circle, which most use for protection, which for me, I don't care about protection because I believe if we're going to commune with them, it's going to be as equals. So, when we look at witchcraft, we have to discern what it is for us as individuals. And that's why I recommend the Temple of Witchcraft series by Christopher Penziak and Mastering Witchcraft by Paul Huzon. I would also recommend you doing your history on the craft and why it has changed so much since the Paleolithic era. From the Paleolithic era to the Dark Ages to the Holy Wars to the Renaissance to what is now known as the Burning Times to modern day practices. Discern for yourself and decide what it means to you. But remember to stay at the basics, because the basics create that sound foundation to which you will be building on to get to higher magics. In part 3, I'm going to be discussing the rituals and the tools a little bit, because I want to get things set up to where I can get most of the well-known practitioners, those who are more experienced, like the adepts, the intermediates, and the advanced practitioners. But also I'm making these videos because of the fact that I want the beginners to have a firm grasp on what witchcraft is, what demonic sorcery is. So, with that said, I'll do part 3 tomorrow, or maybe even tonight. But for now, I've got to download this video because I got to get ready for work. So, for now, have a good day. Blessed be, and so mote it be.